Check this out, boys. That's right, you cannot use active track if you want to shoot vertically. Alright, what is up guys? Welcome back to another Mavic 4 Pro video. Today we're testing a feature I see a lot of people complain about actually on the internet. I'm talking about the new active track that came with the Mavic 4 Pro. But before we start, I just want to say a quick thank you to everybody that's subscribing to my channel and to everybody that has subscribed to my channel. It's thanks to you guys that I just reached 8,000 subscribers, and that was a huge mental lift for me personally. I'm not gonna lie, I've had it pretty rough over the last year. So just want to say I'm very grateful for that, and I have you guys to thank for that, so thank you. Alright, I'm gonna do a voiceover for the tracking itself, and then we'll come back to the bench and do a conclusion at the end of this video. Alright, so I'm gonna start off with an easy walk here first. Now this is the active track interface. If you don't know how this works, or if you need a quick reminder, it's that when I drag my finger around this circle, I choose the drone's follow position in relation to the subject. It basically lets you control where the drone stays while tracking, so front, side or behind, and it will automatically adjust to that position while flying. So a little quick warm up here, just some regular walking. There is a big forest to the left of me here, that is why it struggles a little bit here. As you can see, the orange indicators in the middle of the screen here, that means it struggles with finding space for the active track, so it tries to navigate around that and find a good position. And then I try to go from the left to the front, and it handles that pretty good, I'd say. And then it does get to that front position after a while. And as you can see, I guess this is my biggest critique of this drone. As you can see now that when I move from the front to the behind, if you notice how long it actually takes to find that position again, even though it's choosing a route now where there are no objects or anything it needs to avoid, it still uses a lot of time to get to that position from behind. And here I try to do a quick maneuver where I try to just turn around really quick and start running. At the start there, you can see it still follows me from the front, but then it keeps track of me really well, if I might add, and then it locks on from behind after a while. But that took some time, but overall I think it does a very good job here at actually tracking me. And same here, I just keep walking for a little bit. And same here, I try to trick it a little bit again, but this time I move it to the front before I start running, and then I start running, so it's already tracking me from the front. But I wasn't able to really fool it with that one, so it did a good job there as well. And here again, it's from the front, and as you can see, it still uses a lot of time to get to that front position. So this is probably the biggest critique, but the tracking itself, I find that to be very reliable here. And here I try to turn around to see if it actually comes to the front, because I have it set to the front here, but it needs me to start moving before it understands what is the front and what is the behind. Alright, so then I try to up the game with walking down a narrow path. Now we have bushes and trees on the left side and on the right side, and we start with the drone from behind, and then I try to move it to the front to see how it reacts to that. And as you can see, it sees trees on the left side, and then it struggles with the trees on the right side. Then it struggles a little bit again, but then it flies a little bit closer, finds some space, it goes up into the air, finds the altitude it needs to get over the trees, and then it comes around, and then it comes down again to that front position. And yeah, it took some time here as well, but it actually did really well to actually find that position in front to avoid those trees. So next up, I wanted to test to see how the drone reacts when I move behind obstacles. So first I walked behind this bush, and as expected, it does lose track of me, but as soon as I come back into the view, it snaps back onto me really quickly. But then something interesting happened, and it was a bit scary as well. So as you can see, when I hide behind this bush here, the drone did lose track of me, and then it suddenly just rushes forward, probably trying to find me once again, but it moved really aggressively, and I was 100% sure it was going to crash into these trees and branches. But the good thing about this was that we could again see how good the obstacle avoidance is when they kick in. So when I got back home and started the edit of this video, I realized that I don't really have everything I want. I haven't tested the other two lenses, I'm also not tested any fast moving subjects, and I haven't really put the obstacle avoidance to a real test yet. So I had to go back out again. And as you can see here, I'm starting off with the spotlight first, and this is just mainly to check how far it actually tracks moving car into the distance. Really keeps track of the car way longer than I expected. So first up we have the 28mm wide angle lens, and I'm starting here following the car from behind, and when I move it to the front, the drone, instead of going to the actual front position, it just starts to descend like crazy instead. So I actually had to cancel this because screw that. But then I tried with another car again. Now I have it set to behind, but I'm starting from the front, and I'm really happy with the transition here from the front to the behind. Just look how seamless this transition is. In my opinion, this looks really cinematic, it looks really steady, there's no radical turns, there's no like radical movements here at all. This is something I actually will be using for stuff I'm going to create in the future. I think it does a beautiful job with this tracking right here. But then further up the road, I set the drone to track the car from the right side, and then it faces some objects here. So we have a tree here where it loses the car, but then it just snaps on. And the same thing here, it loses the car for quite some time in fact, and then it just snaps on again beautifully. And then at the end here, the same thing again, loses it, snaps on. But then at the end it had no chance, understandably, because it's just completely gone at this point. So then I moved over to the 166mm telephoto lens, and I quickly learned here that you cannot use active track with this 166mm, but you can use spotlight, and the transition here again when the car passes under the drone, the way it keeps track of the car, I really like the transition here. I think it looks very scenic and cinematic, just as it did with the wide angle lens, and this is also something I definitely will be using for future projects. It's steady, it's smooth, it looks cinematic, it has everything I want from an automated movement like this, so I'm really happy at least with this. Even though you can't use the active track, I think this is at least a good addition. But you can use the active track with the 70mm on the other hand. And here I picked up a car, and again it wasn't really any surprises here, it was performing just as well as the other ones. And then finally, for the grand finale, I really tried to push the obstacle avoidance to see how good they really are. And I'm outside my school here, and there's a lot of poles, and it's like steel wires, and we have a staircase here, and I really tried to make it hard for the drone here. And as you can see, I'm walking behind the stairs, loses me, snaps back on, walking behind the pole, does a beautiful job here, just keeping me in track and keeping me just a beautiful job here, tracking me all the way. Again here, just trying to make it as hard as possible for the drone to actually keep up with me. Only thing I'm doing here is just walking behind poles, and I think the drone does a really good job here. I think it holds on to me pretty good. Even though I try as good as I can to just completely fool it. And then I try to up the game a little bit more by walking up the stairs instead to see what the drone does here. And as I go up here, you can see that it tries to follow me up a little bit, but then it realizes, no, there's too many objects here, I'm not going to be able to follow. Then it loses the tracking, and then I come back down and it catches on beautifully again and just keeps on there all the time. You see here we have steel wires, it does not fly into those. It feels really safe and stable, these obstacle avoidance sensors. I'm really happy with this. I think this is a very safe drone to fly in terms of crashing it. If you fly in cinematic mode, I will be very surprised if you are able to crash it. And before I forget to mention it, as I said at the start of this video, you cannot use active track while you shoot vertically, and you cannot use active track, as I mentioned earlier, when you're shooting with the 166mm. But overall, this was the results for the tests. Alright guys, so what can we take away from this? The truth is that I originally planned to do a deep dive into all the 3 different lenses for this video, but I got so curious about this active track because I read so much stuff online about the active track being really bad. So I decided to do this video first, and in my opinion, I think the active track is fine. I think it performs really well. There was really no surprises really when it came to the tracking by itself. So maybe it was a little bit slow when you try to go from behind to the front or to the side. You know, the time it spends to actually find the right angle or the time it uses to actually rotate around to find the right position. Maybe you could argue that that was kind of mediocre, but in general, I don't think it had any issues at all with the tracking by itself, and I also think it did a very good job while it was tracking. Maybe people see something I don't see, because I see a lot of people complaining about the active track online, I don't really see what they are complaining about, if I'm going to be completely honest. And believe me, if I thought it was bad, I would have told you. But if there's something that you feel I missed or that I didn't test properly, that other people see that I don't, if that is the case, feel free to call me out on that in the comment section, and I'll be happy to go out and try the Active Track again if that's what it takes. Now, there are going to be more Mavic 4 Pro videos coming up. I'm going to test everything it has to offer. I'm also going to make a lot of, cinematic nature videos. I live in Norway, it's beautiful here, so I need to do that. Kind of need to do that as well. But yeah, thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to smash that like and subscribe button, and I'll see you guys in my next Mavic 4 Pro video. Take care.